Ladies and gentlemen, good morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are in the world and whenever you are tuning into this video. My name is James Porcelli.
I'm Brian Thomas. Happy Saturday, everyone.
Happy Saturday. Welcome to another edition of the Ruthless Talk podcast. It's time to stand up and do the Muscle Man dance, baby. Shout out to Bray Wyatt.
Yes, sir.
So yeah, ladies and gentlemen, today is draft day. Today is draft day. The first day of the WWE Draft was last night on SmackDown, and there is a lot to go over in this show. Of course, if you guys haven't checked out our last episode was our big Season 5 premiere. We talked a lot of stuff, actually, a bunch of stuff on that show. Freaking AEW Dynasty, freaking Raw, a bunch of stuff there. So make sure you guys go check that out. Check out that video that is available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and of course on YouTube. So we're going to dive straight into it. So this was day one of the WWE Draft. There's been lots of talks about the draft. And of course, Brian, we've kind of made fun of the draft over the last several months about how you always see a lot of people jumping from brand to brand. So there's not a lot of stability in this draft. I guess that's the best word you can put it. Not a lot of stability in this draft. And will that change? Who knows? I guess we're going to find out once all of these draft picks get locked up, and all of those draft picks will be official starting May 8th. There was also draft pools. So there's select amount of wrestlers and talents for a certain draft pool from last night. And then the same goes that will be happening on Monday Night Raw. And we'll be talking about Monday Night Raw and draft on night 2 this coming Thursday. We'll talk all about that. So as well as we got SmackDown, of course, Backlash is a week from today. And of course, we'll be talking about WWE Backlash and a big good, the bad, and the ugly review show. So we'll be talking about that pay-per-view. That should be a really, really, really good time, as well as we got a big special guest. So
yes, sir.
That as well. But let's dive straight into this, man. So to start off this cold open, before we get into the show itself, I guess the only right way to go about this show is to start off with the draft itself. So how we're going to go about this is that we have all of the select members for each brand for both Raw and SmackDown. So we will start off with the Raw brand. So before I do get into that, Brian, I will say, the draft is all about, shaking things up. And, it's a new era. We've emphasized the new era. And here's the draft. We're going to shake things up, fresh matchups, fresh faces in different brands. You didn't really get a whole lot of that freaking last night. And it's kind of disappointing to a degree, because there was 20, I want to say there was 21 picks from last night, and only you got maybe, I want to say, a handful of faces that were pretty much different. For the most part, and 2 of them were pretty much NXT talents for the most part. But let's go over this Raw roster, man. So Jey Uso was the very first pick of the draft. So you have Jey Uso. You also had Seth Rollins. Seth frickin' Rollins was your second pick. Braun Breaker, Liv Morgan, Ricochet, Sheamus, Alpha Academy, all the members of Alpha Academy. You have Kiana James. That's right, Kiana James. And if you don't know who a Kiana James is, I don't freaking blame you, because neither did that crowd on SmackDown last night, because it was very mild and it was very disappointing, to say the least. And I'll get into Kiana James in just a second. Also, after the show, there was some picks. You also have Isla Dawn and Alba Fire. You also have Ivar from the Viking Raiders, Shayna Baszler, and Zoe Starks. So you can kind of see the trend. You're pretty much saying, James, these are the same people that were already on Raw. Well, you would be freaking correct. So, and by the way, too, Roman Reigns was not a part of this draft. I guess he can now just selectively just take himself out of the draft and say, no, I'm good. I'm already off freaking TV. I don't know who's giving that authority, but I guess we'll just freaking run with it and just act like it makes sense. Yeah, Roman Reigns, he's withdrawn from the draft. Cool. Let's just Anybody approve that? Nick Aldis, did you approve that? Adam Pearce, no. So Roman Reigns can just fucking leave. Okay, that's cool. Whatever. But Brian, I'll let you jump into this, man. Your thoughts about at least the Raw side of this draft, all these picks, and yeah, man, your thoughts about it in regards to all of it.
So let me talk about the draft in general at first. Again, this is the first draft of this new era, right?
Mm-hmm.
So my problem in previous years with the draft, which at least so far, I feel like it's one of those things that at least what we saw on TV, it was kind of addressed and corrected for me, but we'll see where it goes. But my problem has always been they'll announce, pick run from SmackDown, Jey Uso, or Raw, Jey Uso, right? And then at some point they'll get down here to where they one side will draft the Bloodline, all of them, right? So that's 3, 4, 5 members sometimes, depending on who it is. And then the other side never, as historically to me, and I could be wrong about this, maybe it's just my perception, but the other side then never drafts that other faction or whatever. So at least the product of presented on what we see on TV. And I know afterwards they announce more draft picks and everything evens out in the end. I get it.
Right.
It's just what's presented on TV, becomes this very uneven roster when you look down, even sometimes the number of talent or the level of talent, at least what we see on TV. Now, obviously, these drafts, give it a month and somebody else, somebody's going to be switching brands. So, it's one of those things where how seriously do we take this draft? Because these people aren't going to be, there's some are going to stick for sure, and some are going to move, and that's how it's always been. So, but at least for this draft, they announced this. Okay, this is the pool of talent we're drafting from tonight. And as you go down the list, SmackDown did, well, I won't say who they drafted, but the roster's even out for me. So that at least is something, right? But as we go down this roster, you got Jey Uso, number 1 pick. I'm fine with that. I mean, they're obviously going to be pushing him. Rollins, who is going to be out for some time, so we don't really know when he's coming back, but, he'll be there on Raw. And the rest of the roster, man, I mean, at least for a night 1 draft is kind of, dare I say, kind of weak at this point. I mean, you got Braun Breaker, who we're all excited about, but hasn't done anything. Liv Morgan, who we're excited about, but we'll see where they go. And then the rest of them, Ricochet, Sheamus, Kiana James, Alpha Academy. That's a whole lot of up in the air, man. So overall, I mean, the Raw roster so far is, to me, kind of underwhelming. And there's a lot of names still out there. So again, there's a lot to go, and they I would say, since this was a SmackDown show, they want to highlight the SmackDown roster. I would think, the SmackDown, I would say, is a little bit better. Coming up this Monday on Raw, I would imagine they're going to make up for that. The Raw roster will be a little bit stronger. So it is what it is, man. But yeah, I mean, nothing much has changed. So it's another WWE draft.
Yeah, and that's exactly my thought process going into this for weeks now, is that how committed is this company to make this feel like an actual draft, like an actual freaking brand split? Because we've seen people jump from brand to brand with just completely insulting our intelligence to not figure out to say, wait a minute, isn't this person a SmackDown superstar or a Raw superstar, with no explanation with them even being on the show just in general? It pisses me off, because it's clearly you're on Raw and you're on SmackDown, and you would think Nick Aldis, the general manager, whoever's running shit during the show, would say something. Wait a minute, you're not supposed to be here because you're not a part of the SmackDown roster. It just blurs the lines, and it doesn't make the brand split. actually feel like a brand split.
It's meaningless.
It's meaningless. It's just like, what's the point of this draft if you're not going to be committed to actually having a brand split? And if you are going to have people jump from show to show, make it make sense of why they're there, if that makes sense. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, but the question is WWE committed to doing such? I guess we're going to find out now moving forward. I have no freaking faith in it, because why would I? They haven't given you a reason to.
I would say, I mean, and I feel like this is an easy thing to do, you know, but like,
you would think,
so if you're planning on doing this yearly, right, after, you know, a week or two after WrestleMania, right, on a yearly basis, then okay, draft your people to each brand. You can't have no free agents that can show up with it, none of that shit. And, you know, don't give me any, you know, I know Roman is kind of in a separate category, kind of. But look, draft your roster. These are the people you have to work with. Build your storylines with these people for a fucking year.
Right.
You know, and then at the, you know, we come back to Mania, you know, and shake things up again if need be. And obviously injuries happen, but just on paper, like, draft who you're going to draft. Build these storylines, you know, on your show, only on that show for a fucking year. You got a year to do it. You know?
Absolutely. No, absolutely.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah. Like, listen, I don't trust it, man. Until I see this brand split feel like a brand split, I don't trust it. I didn't trust it with
I think in the future, let's do something in a couple weeks here, right? Once this is all said and done, we got to do a little lottery or something. Like, who's the first person that's going to jump, right?
Right.
It's coming.
Right. Yeah. It's going to happen. Right. And they're going to, and that's the thing, man. They're insulting your intelligence to not say anything, right? It's like, wait a minute, you're on Raw. Why are you on Raw? You're supposed to be on SmackDown, right? Because it's going to happen. It could happen the week after this draft, 2 weeks. Who the fuck knows when it's going to happen? But it's going to happen.
I give
it
a month at the max.
A month.
Somebody's jumping.
That sounds about right to that degree. So yeah, man. So this Raw roster, so you got Jey Uso. And listen, I like Jey Uso. Again, the Usos, they've been one of my favorite tag teams over the past decade. And it's great to see Jey Uso be that solo act, that babyface. And he's doing a tremendous job. But like you said, man, Seth Rollins, he's going to be on the shelf. CM Punk is on the shelf. There's also the WWE has caught the injury bug as of late, man, with Jimmy Uso, Punk, Rollins, Dominic Mysterio. So, and now you have Jey Uso, and Jey Uso's a good talent, and he's a good baby face to have. But if Jey Uso is the top baby face of your selected brand, then we have a fucking issue, if that makes sense, right? So that's the thing about Monday Night Raw. And Brian, we've talked about kind of these rosters before we got on here. Like, SmackDown seems to be still the more heavy favorite in regards to talent and superstardom over Monday Night Raw so far. Because if Jey Uso, and again, much respect to Jey Uso, if he's going to be the top babyface for Monday Night Raw, I don't know, man. I don't know. I mean, he's doing so far really well with Damian Priest and the world title, and we'll see where that goes. And then,
I think it's the next step for him, though. I mean, this is, you know,
we'll see
if that's how this roster pans out. Which, again, there's a lot of big names that are still going to be drafted, but to where he is the number one babyface, at least until Rollins comes back. Yeah, you know. It's, you know, balls in your court, homie. Like, you know,
absolutely, for sure. And Seth Rollins, again, who knows when he comes back in regards to it. I'm sure he'll have more of a story to tell when he's back with the Bloodline. Of course, Liv Morgan, she's doing her thing with this whole world title situation, her redemption story. But again, she's already on Raw. So again, I don't know what the point of having a draft is if you already have all these selective people already on the Raw roster and say, they're back on Monday Night Raw. It's like you're not moving any puzzle pieces anywhere. You're just keeping people in the same spot. You have Sheamus, who just came back, so I don't know how much of a big shock that really even is, because he's already been on Raw with that segment with Drew McIntyre. And just outside of that, everyone else is pretty much in the same spot. And then you have Kiana James, and I'll get to you, Brian, in just a second. Like, listen, I know who Kiana James is. Brian, I'm sure you know who Kiana James is. Like, you could have, like, that was the final pick, by the way, of the night, was Kiana James And guys, you could have heard a pin drop in that fucking arena. It's just like, man, it's just, I don't know why we call people, and WWE has had a reputation with this. It's like we're calling people up to the main roster that have no business being called up to the main roster, because clearly you hear that reaction Kiana James gets, and people are like, wait, who is this woman? Who is she? And that's exactly our point. So
Right.
I don't know how, after you heard that reaction, what you're going to now do with her, or what she's going to be involved in, or there's just certain pieces in NXT that just don't need to be moved to the main roster. It's just very weird. Like, Live Valkyria is still there. Obviously, Trick Williams is there because he's the champion. JC Jane is still there. Like, JC Jane should have been freaking called up at this point because of how damn good she has been. With the whole Gigi Dolan feud freaking months and years ago.
That was shit. Like, damn near a year ago now.
Right. It's just like, why are we not calling certain individuals up that should be called up when Kiana James, to where, she may be a decent talent, but the problem is nobody knows who she is. And B, there's already so many other talents that should be drafted ahead of her. It's just very fucking weird.
Yeah.
But who knows? I'm rooting for the woman. I hope she does well. I don't know too much about her to really criticize anything about her game. But yeah, Brian, I know you had stuff to say because we'll get into the SmackDown roster. But yeah, your final thoughts about the Raw picks.
Yeah, just a couple of things. So I didn't see this live, so I'm not sure if this happened or maybe I read it wrong. But I think I've read something online already with Kiana James in particular, where, I guess, many people don't know her, whatever, but so she was drafted and they showed her reaction. And what I read online was it was already kind of like they were doing like a character change with her. Like, it wasn't her normal persona that, it seemed odd. So I don't know if that was right or wrong or whatever, but like
a lot of times, like obviously with TKO and now the new regime of WWE and sports entertainment, they try to make it more of like this sports like type of feel of like, oh, hey, someone gets drafted. So you would kind of be, because you're right, because Kiana James has been kind of more of this like heelish persona in a way. And now she's kind of like, you see like the big smile on her face from ear to ear. Like, I just got drafted, right? It's just like, I don't know. It's just like, I get what they're trying to do. And I understand like that's the foundation of what WWE is trying to portray themselves like more, of course.
I don't think I think they're making a mistake if they try to go down that to make it actually like a baseball or a football or a basketball draft.
You see like how like they're all standing in the performance center and they're like looking up at the screen like they're waiting to get drafted. Like,
and that's how it's like always been like
player.
that.
Yeah. No, of course.
But to act like, oh my God, I just got drafted. And granted, these people are living their dreams, but it's not the same thing as a 19-year-old coming out of college being drafted.
Right. You don't want to blur the lines too much to where it takes away the persona of their character and what they're doing in NXT. Yeah, it looks silly, and it throws people off, especially for people who have been watching NXT consistently. They're like, wait a minute, this isn't the Kiana James that I just saw last freaking Tuesday. Right, it's just
that gives the fodder for the people that wrestling's fake. It's like shit like that. That it's like, God damn it, like, I got no comeback for it.
That's what gives professional wrestling a bad rap, man. And I've said that many times too. WWE and many other companies, they do the same thing that really just gives or puts WWE and professional wrestling and just everything as a whole in a bad light to say, that's just fake. I don't get this. Why do people are so into this? This is fake. This is garbage. Why would you? So absolutely.
Let me say one more thing too, because I'm not sure if I have this right too, but so Ricochet, is there now something called the Speed Championship?
Yes, there's a show called WWE Speed, and I just saw that actually not too long ago on X that Ricochet has won this title belt on WWE Speed, so he's the Speed. I guess that's for a certain maybe hour-long show that freaking people like Ricochet and freaking Johnny Gargano and all these freaking flippy-do guys that could put on banger matches.
That's like,
right?
man, don't go down the AEW route. Don't create belts for the sake of creating belts, man. Don't do this, dude.
I don't.
That's
even,
my final thought on that.
I forget it's even a fucking thing, Brian. I'll be completely honest with you. So yeah, I don't even know where you can even watch that. Maybe it's on Peacock somewhere. I don't even fucking know. But let's get to the SmackDown side of this, man, as I'll go over all of the SmackDown draft picks here. First pick was Bianca Belair. Second pick was Carmelo Hayes. Then you have Randy Orton, Nia Jax. So boom, there you go. Something that's a little bit different. Nia Jax goes from Raw to SmackDown. I'm like, okay, boom, there you go. And then you have the Bloodline, all members of the Bloodline. The MFT, now is known as Tama Tonga, Solo, and even Paul Heyman, the whole trio there with the Bloodline. You have AJ Styles, Andrade, and then after the show, SmackDown selects Baron Corbin, the OC, and Michin, Cedric Alexander, and Ashante Adonis. If you guys don't know who that is, of course, Hit Row was a part of the faction Hit Row. If you've already forgotten who that is, then I don't fucking blame you. So, Brian, I'll let you jump straight into this, man. Your thoughts about these SmackDown picks and, everything else as a whole with it.
So far, I mean, SmackDown side, I see a lot more potential here. A lot of the same. I don't want to give away what happened in SmackDown, so I'll save that for later. But I mean, I'm just looking at like, okay, so they drafted the OC. Mm-hmm. AJ Styles is there. If they're hooking back up, then you got Sikoa, Tonga, Heyman. Mm-hmm. Nia Jax is now at SmackDown. There's Michin in the OC, Nia Jax with the Bloodline. Maybe not right away, but I like them being on the same brand. There's at least potential that, there's more involved in this Bloodline. So I do like that. Man, Carmelo Hayes, dude's a superstar, man. We'll get into it here in a bit, but great pick there. And, of course, Bianca. I mean, how can you go wrong with Bianca? She's, in the top 3 to 5 females in all of wrestling, probably. So yeah, man. All in all, of course, you got LA Knight, Andrade. So right now, at least of who's been drafted so far, SmackDown roster is kicking the Raw's roster's ass, man. Like it's not even that's a slaughter.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, when it comes to, if I had to switch anybody up here, and I've even mentioned this before, if I had to move anybody to the Raw roster, to be honest with you, Brian, it would probably be LA Knight. Because when I look
him
over
or
at
AJ, him
or AJ, but the reason why I say LA Knight is because they need just a little bit more babyface power and stardom over there, especially with Seth and CM Punk and a lot of other people on the shelf. And I thought that would be kind of like another restart for LA Knight now going to the Raw roster. Randy Orton, I'm fine with staying on SmackDown. I have no issues with that. Andrade, you'll probably expect to see Charlotte Flair as well on the SmackDown roster because her man Andrade is also on there. And yeah, Bianca Belair. So I assume that you're also going to see Jade Cargill as well on SmackDown beside her, since they're going to be a tag team for the most part. And then you have Nia Jax. So Nia Jax, yeah, I mean, you said it earlier, Brian, about the whole Bloodline stuff. Could she be added? Could they keep adding puzzle pieces? You also have the OC. I'm still waiting for the OC and AJ Styles
to actually feel important,
right? Yeah,
actually, yes,
right. To go back to that whole friction that's kind of been start-stop for like months now,
right.
So again, kind of like the same thing I said about the Raw roster. Outside of Nia Jax and Andrade, there's nothing really different or shaken up here. So that's the main thing, or the main focus, Brian. I was kind of going into this is like how shaken up this draft was going to be. And not just of like moving puzzle pieces, right? Because you can do that easily. But how does it make the most sense long term? Like you said, Brian, like with Nia Jax, like with the Bloodline, because she'd be added to the Bloodline because, she's related or cousins with The Rock. Of course, The Rock, who knows when The Rock is going to come back with the Bloodline. Of course, with AJ Styles and the OC still there, that kind of makes sense to see where if they ever freaking cross paths again.
You would think they have to, right? Like you're bringing the OC back. You got this. I mean, AJ Styles is phenomenal, no pun intended.
Yeah, you really didn't even truly finish what was told between the OC. Like, like AJ Styles is like, he's pissed and he wanted to part from the group, but we never really got more of a further, maybe not just explanation, but just more of a broader story being told there. It's kind of just start-stop. So I don't know if they ever even plan on doing anything with the OC. The OC, they've been fucking irrelevant for what feels like months. I mean, they've been on NXT doing God knows what. It's just, I don't even know. So, yeah, and look, and Bianca Belair and Jade, I mean, I've spoken my piece about those two. It's just like, like, how the fuck do you plan on having anybody as a team defeat those two? It's going to be insane because they're going to hold on to tag titles as they'll be facing the Kabuki Warriors, both Asuka and Kairi. There's no doubt in my mind they're going to win those tag titles and keep Jade's momentum rolling, especially it's mostly for Jade than really anything. So
I just hope they build that women's tag, because now that you have that tag division, your tag champions here coming up,
right?
Then like
that's a team you can build around a tag division, bro.
Yes.
So I mean, if there's any other time to build a tag division around a team, it's these freaking two ladies, Jade Cargill and Bianca. So yeah, man, I think so. The draft overall, night one, kind of underwhelming, to be honest with you. Hopefully that changes on Monday Night Raw. The whole Roman Reigns being withdrawal makes no fucking sense. It's just baffling. It's just like, okay, any employee or anybody that works for a selective company can just walk up and say, yeah, I'm not participating in this. I'm just going to go home, and just be like, okay, now I get it. It's Roman Reigns, so I guess he has more of an upper power than anything, but still they didn't really go too in depth with it. Like, why is Roman Reigns departing? Like, give us an explanation, at least from a higher power like Triple H, Nick Aldis. Nothing. It just came from freaking Paul Heyman's mouth, and everyone's just like, okay. So I don't know. So
I will say it could work in this way, and this is just kind of what I'm thinking is, so you got Solo and Fatu, or I'm sorry, not Fatu, Tonga drafted over at SmackDown. Jacob Fatu still out there. That's going to be interesting to see where Jimmy and Jacob go. Who's going to SmackDown, who's going to Raw.
Yeah.
Because I think when Roman does return, if they do it right, or I don't know, right's the right word, but if you were to put Jimmy back on Raw and have Jimmy and Jay there, not necessarily teaming up at first or whatever, but then when Roman comes back, is he coming to SmackDown with the new reformed bloodline, or is he coming back for Jimmy and Jay? I think that could provide some intrigue. But other than that, it's what?
Yeah, it's weird, bro. It's this entire draft. And listen, that's kind of everything that happened with this draft last night kind of proves to what I've said about the draft, Brian, what you have said about the draft, and how nobody can just really take this seriously, man, because like we said at the top of the show, are they really going to dedicate this as an actual draft in a brand split in the first place? But no. I guess, right. Yeah. Same here. No, like they're going to, because listen, I know Vince McMahon has done it before, but also Triple H has done this before. So I can't really, confidently say, oh, don't worry, it's a new era. So everybody's, no, motherfucker, no. You got to prove that shit to me that this is an actual brand split.
The same thing happened with last year's brand split draft.
And if people are going to be going to a separate brand, give an explanation why they're there. You know what was a good explanation, or at least made sense? When Jey Uso invaded, I believe it was on SmackDown, or I believe it was on SmackDown. He was a Raw superstar
after he came over to Raw,
and he had the issue with Jey Uso, and I think he got involved in Jey.
Are you talking about Jimmy or Jay?
Or excuse me, Jey Uso. He involved when Jimmy Uso. This is when after he turned on him, and then when Jey Uso went to Raw, and then he invaded SmackDown. But then you had security escort him out of the building. Nick Aldis is like, hey, you're not a part of it. Get out of the building. Right. And then he does the same thing with freaking Adam Pearce. It's like, you as well, get out of the building, get them out of here. Like, that's what makes it feel like a fucking brand split. If you're not a part of this fucking show, get out. So if you're gonna do that, make it believable, right?
They're
Like,
just hanging out backstage, cutting promos.
Yeah,
and shit.
like, don't insult our intelligence, man. Like, stop. Like, come on, man. Most of us are grown fucking individuals. We could put 2 and 2 together, man. Like, Triple H, come on, people. Like, who the fuck are we fooling here? Like, make it make sense, bro. So, but we'll see, man. I'm crossing my freaking fingers, man. I have no fucking hope in this draft. I've never had hope in this freaking draft. But
still a lot of names out there. I mean, Drew, Punk, Cody, Rhea.
Yeah.
Damian, what's going to happen with the Judgment Day? I mean, so a lot of stuff still to come. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's kind of just most of the fact of just really good stuff going on in the company itself.
Right.
But when it comes to the draft, like, are they going to be able to make sense of keeping people in their separate brands? But like you said, Drew and Punk, when CM Punk is healthy, that's going to really kick things into high gear. You got the Judgment Day that's splitting up. Damian Priest is starting to evolve himself as the solo guy. Like, hey, like, you guys need me. I don't need you. Right. So yeah, there's a lot of good stuff, man. But like, I just hope the draft just in this brand split just doesn't become a detriment, man, because it's happened before. So until something's different, that's just what we're going to believe in at the end of the day. So now, with the draft out of the way, and we'll talk about Monday Night Raw and night 2 of the draft. That will be talked about this coming Thursday. But let's get into the rest of the show itself. So let's talk about the ladies. The ladies, as you had, before we get into this certain match, you had Bayley and Tiffany Stratton backstage, kind of just going face to face. Of course, it's been teased that Tiffany Stratton is going to be taking on Bayley for this championship at Backlash. Tiffany Stratton last night was great. She said, I'm forgetting what she said. She's like, all of a sudden she oh, I had a Tiffany Epiphany or something.
Tiffany Epiphany.
I freaking listen. I love that shit, man. I love it. Yep. Listen, it's stupid, wacky shit like that coming from somebody like Tiffany Stratton. It's just freaking great, man. It works. It works. Yep. That's like, listen, I don't mind stupid, corny shit to where, like, why would you say that? But if it fits your shtick, then that's where I pop and I laugh because it makes sense and it's just it's Tiffany Stratton, right? Like, I know, like, listen, I know Jey Uso and the yeet stuff. Like, I know they were doing like silly puns, like, oh, until we yeet again and then yeet down, I'm about to yeet your ass. Like, all this weird, silly puns. Like, you would never say that, especially a serious in-ring competitor like Cody and Jey Uso. You would never say that in a realistic face-to-face setting. It just sounds childish and awkward. But when it's somebody like Tiffany Stratton, like, I had a Tiffany Epiphany, you fucking believe it. And it's just, it comes off, she does it so fucking great. I can't speak any highly about Tiffany.
She's a star, man.
She's an absolute star. You're absolutely right. And then we go into, this was pretty much a number 1 contenders match. This was once again freaking Tiffany Stratton against Naomi. If you think this is familiar, it sure is, because I feel like we just see Tiffany and Naomi in a freaking one-on-one matchup for the past month now. As this was a no contest. Nia Jax, that's right, guys, Nia Jax, the new SmackDown superstar, Nia Jax attacked Bayley from behind, who was at commentary, caused a distraction and a no contest. And then Tiffany Stratton kind of picks up the bones and she does that beautiful Tiffany moonsault onto both Naomi and Bayley, the same way that SmackDown went off the air last week. So once again, it was Tiffy time that was standing tall, but it was Nia Jax that caused the distraction. And I'm guessing you're going to see Nia Jax go up against Bayley after Backlash when it's all said and done, now that she's part of the SmackDown roster. Take it or leave it there. I mean, we'll see how that goes. Again, I think Nia Jax has been doing solid stuff since she's came back, but it just comes down to how are you going to make people care about this feud, if that makes sense. And as well as with Naomi and Tiffany. Now, this triple threat, so now it's officially a triple threat at Backlash now. That was made official from Nick Aldis in a backstage segment. I would have just preferred Tiffany and Bayley one-on-one, to be quite honest with you. I don't think Tiffany would have lost anything if it was just solely between her and Bayley. This is a great type of, what's the word I'm looking for? A calling card for Tiffany Stratton to have this performance against Bayley,
Naomi
to lose
too.
this match, and Naomi, right? And
Yeah.
Naomi. But for Tiffany Stratton, it's just like she'll lose freaking nothing. But the reason why Naomi and Tiffany just sounds weird being involved in this match is, number one, I've already seen them in a match together for weeks now, and now you're just doing the same thing and now just adding Bayley into the equation. So you're just adding pieces and just doing the same type of match and just adding puzzle pieces, right? Just take it or leave it. It's fine. As long as Tiffany Stratton is involved in, and that's totally fine on my part. She'll lose that match and it will do no harm to her whatsoever. I'm guessing Naomi is going to take the pinfall in this match, or who knows? Maybe it is Tiffany Stratton because she is the heel in this. So I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see how they do it. But it is a triple threat match for Backlash between Bayley, Tiffany Stratton, and Naomi. Brian, your thoughts about this one-on-one match and this triple threat match for WWE Backlash?
Yeah, fantastic match. Both of them.
Yes, and a very good match, of course. Yeah.
Yeah, man. It's again until this draft is over, particularly on the women's side, man. It's hard for me to say where anything's going because there is so much talent at the top now. I mean, Jade, Bianca, Nia, Becky, Bayley, Tiffany, Naomi. You still got the Kabuki Warriors. So a lot of things are really going to depend on who goes where, in the next couple of weeks here. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know how I feel about it with the triple threat and Naomi being in it because I'm still, like I said, after WrestleMania, I think this has got to be Bayley's year. I don't think she's losing that title anytime soon.
No.
So I don't know. I mean, because you got two faces now and a heel. Like and I've talked about it. Like Naomi should be in somewhere in and around the main event picture, or at least in your upper echelon of them.
And we've seen Naomi and Bayley already in a one-on-one match. So, like I said, you're just adding all these people now all together in this match when we've already seen each of these ladies take on each other in certain form or fashions. But yeah, continue.
So that just leaves me with because it doesn't really matter who takes the pin, whether it's Tiffany or Naomi. I think Tiffany's going to be fine.
Tiffany.
But Naomi, she loses this match here. She had her number one contender shot, and Bayley gave that to her. And then where does Naomi go after that?
Right. I mean, does she align herself back with Jade and Bianca again?
See, if you're not gonna have Naomi win a title, which I'm not saying she should. Bayley should definitely be winning.
Yeah, Bayley should be winning. Right.
I would. Keep her in that. Yeah, but then make that faction kick ass, man.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. I would love to see them keep those two together.
Unfortunately, the way Naomi has been booked, not just since she's came back, but her entire freaking career, they're going to have to prove it to me that they have something long-term for Naomi. But yeah, if you want to once again bring her back with Bianca and Jade to form like this Avengers type of freaking badass faction, then let's freaking do it. I'm all down for it.
Absolutely.
But history has told us that with Naomi's booking, they either just don't have anything for her, or they just are not as high on her than maybe they are more high on like a Jade Cargill and a Bianca as well, and a Tiffany Stratton. So who knows? Yeah. So yeah, man. I mean, take it or leave it with Nia Jax coming back and doing this match with Bayley in the future. I mean, I'll give that a chance once that happens after Backlash. But absolutely, Tiffany Stratton is not going to lose a damn thing. She's going to go out there. She might be the fan freaking favorite in this match in France. Who the hell knows? She was the fan favorite in freaking Australia for the elimination.
That's possible,
chamber.
Yeah. That'd be interesting. Like a Bayley's first title defense. Like if she is not getting the face, cheer. That's possible. Really gonna suck, man.
It's possible, man. I mean, you heard it in Australia, and you can hear it. You might as well potentially hear it in France for this triple threat match. So, but yeah, man, I mean, listen, all these ladies are tremendous and they'll put on a tremendous triple threat for what it is. Do I think it's necessary to do? No, but I'm not going to harp over it. I mean, I wouldn't do the triple threat. I don't think it's necessary, but I'm not going to really harp over it. I just wish that we keep some of these matches fresh. Like we have never seen these, like a AJ Styles and a Cody Rhodes. Like, you've never seen them face each other in the, at least one-on-one in the fit. Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of Cody and AJ Styles, that is going to be our next topic here. We're going to get straight into it. So Cody Rhodes, he actually announced with Triple H the first round of draft picks. This was after the contract signing that started off the show between AJ Styles and Cody Rhodes. Corey Graves was out there, of course, kind of narrating this whole thing. And pretty much, AJ Styles, he says, listen, before I sign this, and he talks about how, hey, we're two Georgia boys going at it, competing for this said title. And then he goes into, of course, Dusty Rhodes and how much, AJ Styles, his career meant so much to Dusty, and how their careers have been very similar. They've had to go somewhere else to make names for themselves outside of this company, and they've had this similar path. And now here they are. They finally have crossed one another. So I guess they're kind of just relying, or maybe not resting, but kind of just saying, hey, these are two familiar, or two faces, maybe not two faces, but two talents that made a name for themselves outside of this company. They've never faced each other before. So I guess you can say the story kind of just speaks for itself in a way. I was hoping for a little bit more in this, at least more of the heelish side of AJ Styles, if that's what you're doing here. I didn't really get to see really much of that. And yeah, listen, there's mutual respect there, right? Mutual respect, like I always mention. So yeah, like that's going to be in there, and that makes sense, right? Like, hey, like, we've gone down the same path. We've busted our butt to make names for ourselves outside of this industry. So there's going to be that actual respect there. It makes sense for Cody and AJ Styles to have a little bit of respect. I just wish that there was just a little bit more of that darker side of AJ Styles in this segment, man. It's just a little bit too much of that face respect, to where when you look at AJ Styles, it's just like, oh, he's a baby face, but no, he's supposed to be playing as the heel. So still don't mind it, man. I'm excited for this match. It should be a good match. And hopefully, of course, Cody Rhodes is retaining this championship, of course. I mean, why the fuck would he lose this title? And that was pretty much your contract signing segment. And then, of course, later on in the night, you had Cody Rhodes face-to-face with Carmelo Hayes, who is now a part of the SmackDown roster. Carmelo Hayes is like, hey, freaking, pretty much going all in, going straight for the champion, right? I'm calling my shot. I want you in a match tonight. And Cody Rhodes accepts. They have the match. This match from bell to bell was around 8.5 minutes. Outside of the commercial breaks, it was only around maybe 6 minutes long. I would have went a little bit more in depth with this match with Carmelo. It's kind of weird, Brian, and I don't know how you feel about this, because obviously this was like, oh, hey, to showcase Carmelo Hayes, like, hey, this is the next big star. He's in a match with the champion. Of course, he has to lose, because why would Cody Rhodes lose a big match before his big title defense against Styles? So I have no problem with that. My problem is, and you could say this is nitpicking, but my problem is that we've already done this with Carmelo Hayes before, because he had a matchup against Finn Balor months ago. That was supposed to be his calling card on the Monday Night Raw roster. And now we're doing the same thing months ago. So see, Brian, so that's what I'm talking about, like insulting my intelligence, that you didn't do this same shit months ago. So yeah, I don't have an issue of what they're doing. It's just that they've already done that before. So it's just like, okay, you've already done this twice now. And then after the match, Cody Rhodes wins via the Crossroads. Again, solid match for what it was, no doubt. And then you can see like Carmelo's like in distraught, and then Cody's trying to play, kind of like that veteran mentor, like, hey, like pick your head up or whatever, kind of showcasing Carmelo or whatever. Yeah. I wish they would just tap into, because I don't even know what Carmelo Hayes is even going to be. Is he going to be a face? Is he going to stay as the heel like he was in NXT? So it was kind of confusing on how we were supposed to portray Carmelo Hayes into this, because I would have loved if freaking after the match, if you're going to showcase Carmelo as a heel, he just would have freaking decked freaking Cody after the match. And then after the match, AJ Styles picks up the bones. You kind of have more of a broader type of segment to where AJ Styles, he's the top heel. He's got all the momentum in the world going into this title defense. But instead, AJ Styles goes out there in the face-to-face, similar to the earlier on in the night, and they just shake hands, and that's it. So I get the mutual respect between the two, because there's legit respect. Like I mentioned, both of their paths to this point is very similar, so you can believe it. But AJ Styles, he was this heel in that LA Knight feud. You would expect that same type of heelish character with Cody Rhodes, and you really got none of that to a degree. And I get it, right? Because you only have like a week or so of build. So it's like, oh, James, like, what can they really do? How much build they can do? Okay, well, look, you got a week or so left to build. Frickin' do something special to be like, all right, we already love this matchup already. It's already going to be a banger of a match, and it's going to be, no doubt. But man, get a segment together that's really going to make us need to see this freaking matchup. Okay, boom, I was already sold, but now I'm even more freaking sold on this because what they just did in this segment. So again, regardless, Cody and AJ Styles should be phenomenal, right? So no issues with the story that was pretty much told between the two. I just would have done a little bit more heel work with a lot of these people involved. And that's just it. So Brian, I know that was a lot, but your thoughts in regards to Cody Rhodes, AJ Styles, as well as Carmelo Hayes in regards to this.
Yeah, this is probably the most I have to say about anything too. I'm confused with the AJ Styles thing with, didn't he changed his entrance too, didn't he? It was a different theme music.
Yeah, don't even get me started.
So he comes out there and he cuts kind of a babyface promo, right? And he mentions LA Knight and kind of tries to get the crowd back on his side by, saying like, oh, he just got under my skin, sorry about that, but I moved on.
Yeah.
Now he's going to go into the match. He's going to lose. And you have LA Knight and AJ Styles both drafted on SmackDown. So he's going to go right back there. And you just had him come out and mention LA Knight by name and kind of cut this babyface promo. It's just like, where that was the confusing part of me. Like,
yeah, right. No,
exactly. Like he's been playing this heel. Well, continue that. I don't understand.
Right, yeah.
Come out there with, again, I understand the mutual respect too.
Yeah.
And if I'm being honest, man, I think WWE on this one, they're shooting their shot too quick with this match, man. I definitely want to see it. It's going to be a hell of a match, but there is a big a lot you can tell here between AJ and Cody that I think, if you're going to have a match, don't give them a week and a half to build it. Like, Cody Rhodes' title run, right? I feel like it's going to be a long time, not maybe as long as Roman's, nor should it be.
Yeah.
But there's two feuds that he needs to have that need to be like feuds, like 3 matches and have in-depth story. And I think that's AJ and Orton.
Oh, absolutely.
And I just think they're rushing this. I mean, there's the whole, they mentioned the indie stuff, the New Japan, the Bullet Club stuff.
Yeah.
Like, you could build this for 2, 3, 4 months. And maybe they still will afterwards, but you're already having this match. I think they're just rushing it a little bit, but it's going to be awesome. I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah.
I just hope this does turn into a feud and not a match.
Just a match, just a dream match, right? Just to kind of put in your library of dream matches.
Right. Because there's a lot of story to tell there, man.
Yeah. If you want to. Yeah, and who knows? I mean, they could possibly do a rematch in the future, maybe for another upcoming pay-per-view, maybe Clash at the Castle if they want to do that. So who knows? Because you're absolutely right. So maybe it's one of those situations to where they're going to do a part 2. And have a second match, maybe some type of kind of like a stipulation added into this second match. And maybe,
but again, even with that, like, I feel like, again, with Cody and AJ or Cody and Orton.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't even think that should be at a Backlash or a Cash. I think that's
I
a
agree. Yeah,
SummerSlam, a Survivor Series.
yeah, you can make an argument to say like Cody Rhodes and AJ Styles like on a Backlash pay-per-view. Like, what the fuck are we doing here? This should be at SummerSlam. Freaking I'll even throw WrestleMania in there.
Absolutely,
The Royal Rumble, Survivor. No, absolutely, no doubt. So maybe that's why, Brian. Maybe again, they could potentially do a part 2 to this to kind of add a little bit more story to say, okay, look, the first stage was like, all right, I respect you, you respect me. And again, I'm just trying to make sense out of this.
And I hope that's what they do, because this has to be a feud, man. This can't be just a match. This can't
just be a dream match and be like, all right, let's on to the next, right? No, I absolutely agree. Because and maybe the first stage of this is like, all right, I respect you, you respect me. You know, our paths were very similar to get to this point. And then maybe it starts to get personal after that. Maybe do you add the OC? I mean, what the fuck are the OC doing? They're now on SmackDown.
Right.
Let's fucking go, man. Like, let's freaking get fun with this shit and get creative, you know? So, because like you said, there's a lot of stuff that you can do to make this just fun and really intriguing. Not just for the match, man, because like you said, we know the match is going to be freaking great. It's going to blow the roof off the freaking place in France. We know that. But man, but this was an opportunity, and who knows? Do they continue to prolong this to another pay-per-view into a second match? And if that's the case, then okay, then we'll see where it goes. But if not, man, if this is just something to where like, all right, you're going to have this match, and then maybe Cody Rhodes has another challenger for Scotland and Clash of the Castle, then I'm just like, okay, then man, we could have really done a whole lot more than just saying, oh, hey, I respect you, you respect me, and then say, all right, cool, we had the match, toodles, right?
Right.
So I don't know, man. I don't know, but it'll be a tremendous match regardless. I think for AJ Styles, just him being in this position too, just is very just refreshing, and it just feels good because his booking also has been off the deep end for the longest time now. So we'll see, man. We shall see. I at least as well as Carmelo too, right? Because you could have done
shout out to him too.
A lot with Carmelo in this segment too. Where, he put on a solid match with Cody. It wasn't a great match, but it was a damn solid match. It was fine for what it is. But you could have done a lot even with Carmelo, but the question is, does WWE know what to do with Carmelo as of right now? Because what it looked like, it didn't really look like they know. Because is he a heel? Is he a face? He was a heel in NXT. He was a baby face when he came over to Raw and fought Finn Balor on Monday Night Raw. So yeah, Carmelo Hayes, he's here. He's him, right? He likes to call himself him. But does him know who he is right now?
Yeah.
And does this company know who he is? That's the question here. Can he put storylines on his back? He proved that with Trick Williams, but now on the main roster, can he continue that type of storytelling on the main roster? We shall soon find out, man. So, I mean, the WWE, that company they've proven that they're behind this kid. He's going to be a top star or portrayed as a top star. And listen, I'm rooting for the dude, man. I mean, I've said it before. I said, listen, he's got all the talent in the world, and that Trick Williams feud definitely like gave me a reason to say, okay, like this dude has it. When he needs to tap into something, he can do it. And now can that same type of feel and momentum now translate to the main roster? Because the last thing I want Carmelo Hayes to be is just kind of like, oh, hey, I'm this up-and-comer NXT talent. I'm going to put all these banger matches to prove to you that I'm him, but I don't know how you could be him if you're going to continue to just lose a bunch of fucking matches, because at some point, you're going to have to start winning fucking matches if you're him, right? So, but no, listen, the match between Cody and Styles, it's going to be great. I just would have done a lot more heel work with Styles and Carmelo, especially when you only have so much week of build going into this pay-per-view. But maybe they branch this out going into Clash of the Castle, but I guess we'll soon find out moving forward. But let's get into, before we get into our final topic, and I'll try to make this brief. So the LWO, I have to fucking mention this, man. I know. Oh my goodness, man.
What's happening, man?
What the fuck? You tell me, bro, because I don't have a fucking clue. Listen, so Rey Mysterio has to be the worst leader of a faction of all fucking time. Much love to Rey Mysterio, but what the fuck are we doing with LWO, man? So once again, we had LWO against Legado del Fantasma, because what's SmackDown without, once again, it's LWO and it's fucking Legado del Fantasma in a fucking match, whether it's singles, tag. We got to put these two in matches every single fucking week. So there's the first frickin' spiel. And then you got afterwards to where they showed backstage footage. This was Santos and Elektra presented the footage to say, oh, hey, you blame me for attacking Dragon Lee. Well, here's footage that proves it otherwise. And it was Carlito, which we all fucking knew, to be quite honest with you. I fucking called this shit. A lot of other people that I've spoken with have called this shit from the jump. But it's him attacking Dragon Lee from behind. And it was cool. It was an actual camera shot. So it
like
kind of
security
made this,
camera,
like security camera. So it made the segment actually feel real. And that's what's bummer about this, Brian. This was actually a cool visual to see, hey, Carlito is the one that attacked Dragon Lee. And then you saw like him kind of like going into a door and walking back into it and be like, oh, snap, like get some help, blah, 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 right? So fucking Dominic turned on Rey, fucking Santos turned on Rey, freaking Carlito joins him, Carlito turns on Rey, Andrade's now into the fucking picture. Who fucking else? Kalisto. Did you want to be a part of LWO? Who else? Sin Cara. Where's Sin Cara at? Is he in Lucha Underground? Where the fuck is he? How many fucking people do we insert in this shit? Yeah. Like, what is this faction? It's just a mess of puzzle pieces going from here to here to here. And it's just like the cool thing nowadays is just to turn on Rey Mysterio. Like, and I don't know where it's just going off the rails, and it's really hard to just soak in with so many puzzle pieces being moved. It's just like, if you're going to do that, then why is LWO a faction? Like, what the fuck are they at this point? That's what I don't get. The camera shot was actually really fucking cool, but it's unfortunate that everything else around it is just a mess, because you have all these puzzle pieces moving this way and that way, and nobody can really soak in and connect with it. And I don't know where the fuck we're going, man. Brian, real quick, man, your thoughts about LWO?
I mean, dude. I have, who knows, man. I mean, there's roughly 6-8 people in there. Carlito, Zelina Vega, all of them.
Joaquin Wilde. I don't know who the other dude's name is for LWO.
So, again, we got this draft.
Garza and frickin' Humberto. Yeah.
I mean, I ultimately think that these people, to some degree, again, they're going to be split between brands, and this kind of just, there is no ending to this. The ending is the split, hopefully. I don't know. I mean,
oh my God. It's just like, it's like it was just yesterday, Santos was freaking departed for this group, or he turned on this fucking group. And now here's Carlito. He just joined, and now he's fucking turning on Rey. Like, it makes Rey look like a schmuck, because why? You keep adding all these fucking people in and they're turning on you. Like, what the fuck are we doing? Man, and it sucks because I like Rey a lot, and he's another guy from the Ruthless Aggression era that me and one of my best friends growing up watching pro wrestling. Like,
I like him from WCW days.
WCW, yeah. And it's like growing up and like with his shtick, just his entire career. Like, this is a dude, and it sucks that I don't want this to be a detriment to his career. Right. Yeah. To be like, this is Rey Mysterio, right? Like, this is, again, he's fucking Rey Mysterio, and he's doing all of this shit in a storyline that nobody cares about.
Or can even follow, really.
And can't even follow, because everything is just a mess of people moving from left to right. And it's disappointing, man. Yeah. I just shook my head when I saw it was Carlito. I'm like, I fucking knew it. And I just shook my head. I'm like, we're doing another turn after another turn after another. Sheamus, like, after banger after banger after banger, it's turn after turn after turn after turn. So, oh my God.
And you also got, whatever you do with this, going forward, splitting brands, whatever, you got to drop the LWO name. It just, you got to drop that name.
Yeah, and it's giving LWO Eddie Guerrero too. Giving that whole original LWO shtick a bad name too. It's like, what the fuck is this faction, man?
Yeah.
Like, I feel like we don't even think about that as well. Like, think about how people like Eddie Guerrero and others that formed that original LWO faction, and now you're trying to do something at least similar to that to kind of like, pay respect to Eddie Guerrero and the LWO name. And nobody gives a shit about it because you can't follow it. Yeah. And it's involving Rey Mysterio, one of the best luchadors in wrestling history. It's ridiculous. It's frustrating because, and then you have Santos, who's back in this heel shtick, which is great, but you can't really get connected with Santos because he's involved in this fucking mess. So, I don't know, man. And then Andrade's going to be on top of this too, man. Like, fucking Christ, dude.
Yeah.
Oh, that's all I got to say. Let's moving on, man. Moving on to the Bloodline. Let's move on to the Bloodline, our final topic for this SmackDown review. So, backstage, you had Paul Heyman. He's backstage, and SUV comes to the arena, and it's Solo Sikoa. He's once again in that new getup, that suit jacket and everything. Mr. 0-40, right? Mr. 0-40 now. He is now legit, guys. This is an actual stat. Ever since his victory over John Cena at Crown Jewel, he is 0-40 in his last 40 fucking matches. That's right. And this dude is portraying himself as a tribal chief, and the visual is great, and it's great to see Solo in this, but it's just like, man, during that time when he's on the street, could you not have given him a fucking win here or there? You know what I'm saying? It's just when I look at Solo Sikoa, I just can't, but subconsciously you just can't help but think that, wait, this dude has lost 40 straight fucking matches. Like, how fucking crazy is that? Yeah. But anyway, I mean, Solo looks great in this in this shtick. I think he's doing tremendous. It's just that portion of it. It's just like, wait a minute, he's on this losing streak. How seriously can you take Solo, right? So, he goes up to Paul Heyman and he's like, talks about the draft. If any blood members been drafted, he's like wise man, like freaking Roman Reigns would do. And he's like, have any bloodline members been drafted yet? And Paul Heyman's like, no bloodline members have been drafted, whatever. Tama Tonga's coming out of the SUV as well. They call him what? The MFT or whatever, I believe it is what they call him. I don't know. That's what Solo calls him. He calls him his MFT or whatever. So Solo says some more words to Paul Heyman, and Kevin Owens out of nowhere, like a freaking banshee, just comes in and freaking attacks freaking Tama Tonga backstage. And then later on in the night, so Jade Cargill, the Kabuki Warriors, and Bianca, they were in a screaming match at the top of the ramp to promote their tag match for Backlash. And I really like this visual. All of a sudden, in the background, freaking barreling in comes Tama Tonga and Kevin Owens brawling. I thought that was actually really cool. So you've got two of these storylines, right? You got one storyline that you're focusing on, which I wish we could have done a little bit better than a scream off between the two. But then you have Tama Tonga and Kevin Owens just bursting out of Gorilla, brawling up the rampway. So I thought that was kind of a cool little transition there. Solo Sikoa gets involved, and then there's a 2-on-1 assault, just the numbers games, just once again catch up to KO. And Randy Orton comes out. Who of course has issues with the Bloodline. So, and of course he's been tagging along with Kevin Owens. So makes sense in regards to that. Sends the Bloodline retreating up the rampway. A bunch of security and Nick Aldis are trying to separate everybody. And now it is made official that at Backlash, it will be Kevin Owens and Randy Orton facing against Solo Sikoa, your new tribal chief, I guess, if that's what you want to call him now, against the MFT.
Until Roman comes back, and we'll see.
Until Roman comes back, we'll soon find out. And of course, his tag partner, Tama Tonga. So, and I'm sure that's most likely, ladies and gentlemen, when you will see the debut of Jacob Fatu. We've been hearing rumors about in the next week or two, couple of weeks, that he is planning on making his AEW debut or WWE debut. He's already signed the contract. We've already heard reports and reports and everything else about him signing already a contract. So if everything's on the dotted line and this dude's ready to go, there's no doubt that on a big stage like WWE Backlash is where you'll see Jacob Fatu make his debut. And it kind of makes sense to where like, okay, now the numbers are even, and now Solo Sikoa and the Bloodline to where like, all right, because the Bloodline's all about strength in numbers, right? So now they add that extra number, and it's going to be Jacob Fatu. And I hope to God they let Jacob Fatu be Jacob Fatu in this freaking faction. Oh man, dude, this could be good.
Solo, Tonga, and Fatu.
Fatu, right? Yeah, absolutely, man.
I'm saying, like, when it comes, if I'm sorry to cut you off, but if it comes down to like Roman, Jimmy, and Jay against Solo, Fatu, and Tonga, I mean, my heart wants Roman, Jimmy, and Jay, but I'm looking at Solo, Tonga, and Fatu like, how are you going to beat these dudes?
Yeah, no, for sure. And that's no doubt what it's leading to, that once Roman Reigns is coming back as a babyface. I think it's clear as fucking day at this point now. But yeah, I mean, like I said, the Bloodline has always been about strength in numbers. Now that Orton's involved and now the numbers are even, now it's desperate times, I guess, call for desperate measures. We're going to call in another member, and that member is going to be Jacob Fatu. And I'm sure, whether it is at Backlash or maybe it's the SmackDown after Backlash, at some point within the next 2 weeks, you will see Jacob Fatu most likely make his WWE debut and be alongside Solo Sikoa and Tama Tonga. So good little listen. I mean, this whole shtick with Solo and Tama Tonga, I like how they're presenting Tama Tonga too in this whole spiel. I think they've done a good job with that. Solo Sikoa, same with Solo. It's just unfortunate that the streak, there's a detriment with that losing streak. I'm sure that's going to come to an end eventually now that he's in this new role. That's just the burden right now that kind of weighs on Solo. And of course you have Paul Heyman that's kind of just there. He just has no control over anything at this point now. And Paul Heyman's just, once again, I mean, Paul Heyman is Paul Heyman. He plays his freaking role tremendously. And then, of course, you got, KO and Randy Orton. They've already been this friendly type of tandem, so it makes sense. They both have their issues with the Bloodline in the past. So yeah, it makes, I'm fine with it, and I'm looking forward to it, especially how this continues to prolong with potentially Jacob Fatu entering the fray. And look, man, I'm just gonna enjoy the ride and just cross my fingers that things just go smoothly with all this. So, Brian, your thoughts, man, on this segment and potentially Jacob Fatu debuting at WWE Backlash and getting involved in this tag match between both KO and Randy Orton and the Bloodline. What are your thoughts, man? Talk to me.
Yeah, overall, I mean, I loved all of it, really. No complaints. And yeah, I'm hoping Fatu, debuts here. It's time. We know he's signed. Initially, I would say, when they had Tonga and Fatu, like, we know, like, initially I wanted, not both of them to be heels. But if he is going to debut here at Backlash in this match, when it's not involving any other members of the Bloodline, like, I think it's kind of obvious he's gonna be a heel and join, Solo and Tonga.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, man, I mean, that's going to be a badass faction. My only, and I wouldn't even say it's a drawback, it's just that KO has got to evolve his character to some degree where it's just like, I mean, it's just always, he's like, he just becomes the toddler having the meltdown that just can't control his emotions, right? And like, I gotta fight and swing, and like, I mean, I get it.
Yeah. It kind of runs its course.
It's run its course with me, at least. Like,
no, I hear that. No, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, KO, because you can only do a certain shtick for so long to where, and Kevin Owens, like, he is funny. Like, there's clips, there's clips like on social media to where like he's talking on the turnbuckles, and it's like, he's freaking what was it? It was, I think he had a match with Styles. It was that number one contendership match, that tournament to see who faces Cody Rhodes for the championship or whatever. And it's just like, you hear like Kevin Owens like talking while Styles is coming out. It's like, is that new music? Like, what's going on? Like, it's funny, like, because Kevin Owens plays it off so well. But no, but I agree with you. Like, the kind of the whole, because we've seen that like all the time in WWE. It's just like, the short temper, like freaking
Yeah.
I gotta punch somebody stuff. But yeah, like that type of stuff can definitely run its course, and it can definitely get almost stale to a degree for the most part.
That's
But yeah,
kind of,
continue.
I feel like it's just getting a little bit stale. And that, I mean, it's, I like the pairing of KO and Orton. They both have individual stories with the bloodline.
Yeah.
So that makes sense. I just think it's time for KO to, like, especially if he's going to continue a story with the bloodline or wherever he goes, just there's something else needs to be added to his character. But overall, I love the segment. I like this match. Coming up at Backlash. I hope Fatu debuts. I'm thinking he will. So yeah, definitely looking forward to that, man.
No, absolutely, for sure, absolutely. So, look, the show overall, dare I say, very just underwhelming and disappointing. Outside of a few good things here and there, which was, of course, the Bloodline, Solo, Tonga, KO, and Orton. And also, Final Testament was in a backstage segment. That was freaking like, where the fuck was that at when they first fucking formed? I said this on social media. I'm like, for fucking weeks and months, you've assembled this faction, and finally you're doing stuff backstage with this faction to make them feel fucking dominant. Why wasn't that booked since day one? Like the first freaking day that they were formed. Like, what the fuck? Like, now you want to fucking do it? Yeah. So, but that was beautifully done. Like, that's what you do to freaking promote Final Testament, Karrion Kross. As you guys know, I'm very high on Karrion Kross. I think this dude is just phenomenal. I think he's the definition of a character. And then when you got Paul Ellering and AOP, like, I don't know how the fuck you F that shit up. Seriously.
And even, what's her,
Scarlett.
Scarlett.
Who's freaking tremendous by
and
freaking
her little
Karrion
shtick, she was excellent. Absolutely.
Her shtick as a manager for Karrion Kross, it's freaking tremendous. I don't know why the fuck this faction, as well as Karrion and Scarlett, just those two, are not a bigger asset to this fucking company. I don't understand it. It makes no fucking sense, but that's a different story for a different day. But yeah, man, this show overall was just kind of very disappointing, mainly the draft for the most part, and just how there was really no shakeup. You just put the same people in the same brand that they were already on. And
the most baffling one is just the way AJ cut the promo, and then AJ and LA Knight still being on SmackDown. That's weird.
Yeah, weird. No, absolutely. It's fucking weird. And listen, until this draft actually feels like a draft and this brand split actually feels like a fucking brand split, I have no faith in this shit. I fucking don't. They're going to have to prove it to me. And hopefully we get a better type of shakeup this coming Monday night on Raw, hopefully. So we'll see, man. I mean, I know there's a lot of people that still need to be drafted. People like Gunther, people like Dragunov. Hopefully Gunther goes over to SmackDown. I do believe Gunther should be going over to SmackDown to set up Cody himself in the future, now that Cody Rhodes is on SmackDown. Yep. So things like that as well. Who knows? I'm sure Ilya Dragunov and Gunther will probably maybe be on the same roster. I know there's been rumors about Dragunov joining Imperium. I'll save that for a different day, but we'll see, man. In regards to
I mean, but that could lead to the match of Ilya and Dragunov. But
I'll save that for a different day. But yeah, we'll see. In regards to it, Dragunov, because of course Imperium just split up.
Kaiser,
you have Kaiser and those three.
That could be a badass faction too.
that could be, and I'll say more about that later. I'll have to think about a little bit, but no, absolutely, that has all the potential in the world for sure. So time will tell if WWE really truly wants to put a lot of care and effort into this brand split. I mean, if this is a new era, right? We keep hearing about new era this, new era that. Well, with this brand split, with this draft, make it
keep it a brand split.
Keep it a fucking brand split if this is what you're going to do or how you're going to go about business. Yeah. And that's just it, man. Outside of that, look, the LWO stuff, fucking baffling. I don't know what we're doing with that. Tiffany and Bayley and Naomi, all three of those women are going to do their thing. Tiffany Stratton is going to lose nothing in that match. Even she's going to gain a lot of victory in defeat for that said matchup for Backlash. And outside of that, man, just another very maybe average to below average Raw. Because I mean, the SmackDown after Mania was a damn solid show. So I don't know if I can truly put that on the same pedestal. I just really can't. But Brian, your final thoughts, man, before we end this show, before we close things out here.
Yeah, overall, I mean, I think you're gonna get the same thing on Raw, just kind of like in cruise control, just draft focus heavy. Like that's the story of the show, kind of. So yeah, I mean, I expect that on Raw. It's kind of hard to say where, what I think about any of this until the draft is final and we see where, the people are going and the possible feuds that can happen. So
yeah.
But all in all, I mean, SmackDown's roster right now looks stacked. So yeah, I expect Raw to, stack their roster this coming Monday. So
yeah,
we'll see. Well, we'll be back Thursday talking about it.
Yeah. I mean, a wise man once said WWE is just the Harvey Weinstein of professional wrestling. I had to, bro.
I'm saving it for I'll save it for Thursday. I can't go into this. What fucking garbage that was. Oh my fucking god, dude.
Oh, this dude took
this guy is a certifiable fucking moron. He took
2 to 3 steps forward and a gazillion steps back. Dude, what are you fucking doing? What the fuck?
Cold open
save it.
Thursday.
Cold open Thursday. There you go. Cold open. Stay tuned for it, y'all.
This jackass. Oh my god.
Oh my fucking god, man. And we're gonna end it with that, folks, y'all. Thank you guys so much for tuning in for episode number 2, season number 5 of Ruthless Talk, man. So look. A lot of stuff still to come your way. We got WWE Backlash next week. Like I said, we got a very special guest joining the way, a very familiar guest who's been a part of this platform. So make sure you guys stay tuned. That is going to be an edition of The Good, The Bad, and The Ugly. That will come out sometime later on next weekend. And of course, we got Monday Night Raw to talk about. It'll be night 2 of the WWE Draft. See wherever superstar goes where. So it'll be interesting how things maybe shake up. Do they stay the same? Are they in cruise control? But we'll talk all about that. And of course, we got AEW coming up as well. Double or Nothing that's going to be coming up in May. So there's going to be lots to talk about there, especially now with Swerve Strickland. Pretty much now the face of the company. Is his title reign just going to be in cruise control? Because it sure freaking was last week. So hopefully that shit changes as well.
Yeah.
But a lot of stuff to talk about, man. A lot of stuff to talk about and to dissect. So make sure you stay tuned for all of it, man. You guys see the banner down below. If you are watching this on YouTube, make sure you guys follow us on Instagram and on TikTok. That is Ruthless_Talks. And of course, we are available on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Make sure you guys hit the notification bell. Stay notified whenever we drop an episode. And stay tuned, friend, for more professional wrestling content to come. Brian, your final thoughts, man, before we end things.
Tune in Thursday, folks. Tune in Thursday.
Tune in Thursday. Enough said, man. I love it. That is going to do it for today's episode, everybody. My name is James Porcelli.
I'm Brian Thomas.
And until next time, there will be a next time. Your boys are signing off saying salutes.
Peace out.
And take care, everybody.
Yeet.
Yeet.